We've had such a leap in content for Tower of God since January. Like, it was a rough month, right? Like, even February, half of February was rough. And now we here. We here at peak TOG, and we loving it here. So before I get into it, hit that sub button because I gotta go in. I gotta explain a couple things to a couple people who seem to just be looking at things on the surface level, and I'm gonna try to bring it all around to you guys to how and why I think Zahard is the ultimate. First of all, he's the king. I know he's the king, but why things turned out the way they are. So we start at the beginning of the chapter with the flashback still going on. You see the great warriors mingling, Ed blowing smoke up his own ass in front of the girls. You know, I love Ed's character. I know a lot of y'all like him more now watching this flashback. Traum gets some news that Zahard's not going to be there, and to no surprise, why would Zahard be here? I mean, he is the king of the tower, but this all has to do with, to me, the plot and Zahard being able to see the future. So Traum introduces himself at the party, sees all his friends, you see the interactions. It's all love. It's all love. It's all love between how friends should be. And Kidu is like flustered to even be known, but he sees the interaction between, you know, Edwin, Lee, and Traum and Gustang, and, you know, he feels like an outsider because, no, he doesn't have that level of friendship with Traum, if he has any friendship at all. Again, I don't think they're friends, and I think it'll come out later on when Enkidu goes against Traum that he never saw him as a friend, because we know Traum's nature is to pick up and play with toys and drop them down. And we's already hinted to this, but I'm not going into that. We'll see it later. We already see Enkidu's nature, you know, becoming more and more obsessed as he's starting to believe that he needs to control one of the great warriors. And I know, like, we had these conversations last week in the stream about whether or not he can control one of them, and it's pretty much like confirmed, since I think he tried to take over Gustang even when he got unsealed. And even with these thoughts, we know what he's like. So we get a little monologue of Enkidu like observing the great warriors that are currently there, and he seems to have got a good measure of their character, with Lee Rang being exactly as her wiki and, you know, the blog post states, that she's a beautiful woman but very scary when she wants to be. Edwin, life of the party, man's full of energy, definitely makes sense why he has so many kids. And, you know, Arihan is a loner, which I don't think we ever really like got that specifically. Like, we got kind of like a lonesome guy by himself vibes, but this pretty much confirms who he is. And of course, Gustang at the end of the day. Gustang the GOAT. He's a psychopath, but seems like a gentleman, right? Now the party continues with, you know, Traum, you know, being a good host, using the high tape for firecrackers. I mean, he's putting it to better use than Kieran ever did. But yeah, shouts at Kieran. But seems like the proposal's gonna happen soon, and then Amuez hops on stage. She gives this entire speech on exactly what I was thinking. These people have become complacent. They don't want to climb the tower anymore. We don't know the reason behind that yet. I'm going to give my full thoughts on this later on when I do my big explanation. But they don't want to climb the tower anymore. They're not fun people to be around because of this nature. They want to sit around, have fun, drink. It's not fun. It's not what she wants to do. And it's clearly not what we already know the Grace people want to do. She breaks up with Traum, breaks his heart in front of everybody, which it was dramatic. It was kind of fucked up. And I ain't gonna lie, that was some Rachel level shit. Like, I know, like, a lot of people got theories of her possibly being Rachel's mom, blah, blah, blah. I didn't like the idea, but she is, like, her nature is kind of looking like that, so it remains to be seen. But move forward where we get the biggest bit, which I'll go into detail about. Enkidu trying to get into the room, and he's not necessarily a good enough friend to Traum to understand what he's going through, and can't get in the room. Gustang goes in the room, Ed goes in the room, and what people seem to think is Quadrado is going into the room, but Enkidu walks away feeling defeated because he doesn't have the level of friendship and love to understand, to cheer up Traum, or to even really know what he's going through. So, you know, he walks away kind of, you know, possessed of thinking like he needs to be like a great warrior. So we kind of already know what kind of mindset he's in, right? Now, this entire conversation in this room is a big deal. Okay, this is probably one of the biggest deals, and we'll get more on the flashback later, of course, but I have an entire interpretation of this that kind of ties into Zahard manipulating the family heads. You know, the old whole thing about how Zahar got control is his manipulation of memories, his manipulation of his friends, and, you know, how he became the king. We'll start off with, you know, Traum feeling sad, Ed, you know, giving them these in the street vibes, like, look, this is what it's about. You're supposed to be in these streets, like, you know, hitting these honeys, hitting these hoochies, and, you know, you go from each one to each one to each one. Like, you definitely can see why this man got so many kids, right? But, you know, Traum is in the flip phone position. I love that. I don't know if they'll actually say that in the real translation, but fantastic way to put it. And yeah, so Quadrado goes on to say that if Amuez is leaving, she's going with the Grace people, right? And that was my first red flag, because, okay, referring to them as the Grace people is putting them in a box of people. They're putting them in a box. And they're in a box of kind of like exile, as you hear Gustang say, there's no exceptions if she joins them. Now, how does that sound like you would treat your friends? Now, some people are saying, oh, well, they're ops. They're ops. No. That doesn't make sense to me. If you know anything about friendship, it takes a lot for you to fall out as friends, okay? Even when we see Traum and Gustang, like, finally meet and get face to face, they're still throwing these quips at each other, making little jokes at each other because they've been friends for so long. There is no really cutthroatness about them. They're talking about the subject and going to war and everything, but they're talking around it and still, like, keeping their personalities about it. They're not straight to the point. This point about the Graces, just being the Graces, seems too cutthroat to me. It sounds like they don't know them. It just sounds like they're like a group, right? So the way I interpret this as is the Graces are a group of people who climbed with them, but they don't necessarily have any feelings towards them. And I'll go on to go more in the explanation on this as the conversation develops. So Traum goes on to say he had good memories with Amuez, and he can't really remember the feelings of a lot of those things. And he goes on to ask Edwin, you know, do you remember the feelings of, you know, this event? Do you remember the feelings? And Ed says no. And then he goes on to say that I don't remember the memories of that day. And Gustang goes on to say, we're in a position where our individual memories don't really matter. And yeah. So let me give my entire take on this, because I've been going back and forth with people on this. And this all ties into Zahard's manipulation. Okay, at the end of the day, I believe this all ties into Zahard's manipulation. So, Traum specifically says that he remembers the event being the event that broke up the friends. He remembers the event, he doesn't remember the feelings of the event. Now, so it's contradictory with some other people are saying. Edwin says he doesn't remember the memories of the event. That doesn't make sense to me, because not remembering the memories of the event means that you don't remember the event. You just remember that something happened, but you don't remember who was there, what was being said. You don't remember any of that. That's what you should interpret that as if he says he doesn't remember the memories of the event. No, Traum says he remembers the event, he doesn't remember the feelings. Now, with what Gustang said, and what Traum says even towards the end, is that they are becoming the kings and the queens of the tower. So they have to have a certain level of feeling towards certain things. So they go on to say that Zahard told them this. You have to look at things like this. Now, with that being said, it sounds like to me that Zahard either convinced them or manipulated them into removing certain feelings within their body when it comes to certain things. For example, the Grace people. The way this event sounded like it went left, okay? We all know it went left. But if Zahard told them that they have to remove their feelings towards V and Arlene, which makes sense to me, because we know that V and Traum had a relationship. Gustang and Arlen had a relationship. Edwin admired V. Okay, he mentions this on the data floor. So these people in this room have a relationship with the Grace people. So for them to simply talk about them in that simplistic way makes no sense to me, because we already saw that even when Traum and Gustang were beefing, they were still throwing quips and stuff about each other, that they knew each other. Okay, would Data Edwin, admiring V, talk so casually about him, so cutthroat about exiling him and everything, if he had feelings for him? No, they don't have any feelings for these people. They don't remember the feelings for them. That is what I interpret Traum saying here. They don't remember what it feels like to like these people. So that's the extreme complication in this entire thing. Imagine remembering something, but you don't remember how it felt. So imagine you are at work. Imagine you're at your job, or just imagine you had a mother and your father, and you try to remember a memory about your mother and your father, and you don't remember what it felt like to be with them. You don't know whether you loved them, you hated them. You would just see them as people in the background. Would you care about them? No, because there's no feeling attached to it. So that's how they're looking at the Grace people. That's how I interpret them to look at the Grace people. This is also a part of Zahard's plan, because Zahard needs them to be like that, to be leaders. You guys cannot be caring about these Grace people who want to continue to, climb up the tower. You cannot care about them. It's not good for you. It's not good for our friendship as people who are going to lead the tower. So it's like, for example, to me, and we see, and also to give credence to this, we see the nature develop as Traum sits in that chair and starts to feel entitled to Amuez. That's the nature that Zahard and the Great Warriors develop, and we see them have now. They're entitled people who see people as bugs. That's what Zahard wanted. That's not what he didn't need them to be super duper caring people. And this is even further convinced later on when Gustang loses Blossom and Eni, that the most important thing amongst the family heads is maintaining their relationships. That's what he said. It's more important about maintaining their relationships as the leaders. That's the only thing that's important. Nobody else matters, because they're the leaders of the tower. So this all comes full circle with Zahard needing his friends to be leaders, but you cannot care about these Grace people. Now, do you think that Zahard erased his feelings for Arlene? No, of course he didn't. There's evidence that he didn't, but he got everybody else to feel that way. And it's probably especially about V. That's why it's a confusion between these three people and what we've seen them say before this event. We've seen them say things that it seems like they all have relationships with these people that are considered the Grace people now. Okay? Now, we know that later on, Traum erases all his memories of them. Why? Because Amuez ended up dying. V and Arlene, whatever happened after the war, they erased all the memories of them, because they didn't predict, and I doubt Zahard, and maybe Zahard predicted it, there's no way to tell, but they didn't necessarily predict that they would actually end up fighting and killing them. There's no way you spend decades and decades climbing the tower with somebody, and we saw that these people were considered the Great Warriors. They all have friendships amongst each other. And we know that Zahard had jealousy for V for his relationship with Arlen. It doesn't make sense to me for them to simply become ops after so much time. No, there had to be something significant to happen at this event. Now, could somebody have been killed? Well, yeah, but that doesn't seem like it, because they don't really mention anybody dying or leaving them. Could V have attacked Zahard? No, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like in V. It doesn't sound probable, and it probably would have resulted in his death if these people are so on Zahard's side. So I don't really see like what could have happened at this event. The only thing that makes sense to me for them to feel this way towards them is that their feelings for these people have been removed. That's it. That's all I got. I don't see in there any other way to interpret this. To put it in very simple terms, especially with Traum and Gustang says towards the end of it, is that he needed his great warriors, Zahar needed his great family leaders, all become Joffrey Baratheons. So if you watch Game of Thrones, you know who Joffrey Baratheon is. He's the really crazy king who didn't care about regular people and was super entitled. That's basically what Zahar needed them all to become, and that's exactly what they became. And to further go on about this, Amuez, when she's talking to Lee Rang in the room, she says that she doesn't want to watch traum change because they're all changing. Why are they all changing? Because their feelings towards regular people and regular things have changed. Traum is going to become an entitled, crazy brat. She's already noticed the behavior. She already knows about it. She doesn't want to see it happen because she actually loves him. That's what's going on here. So that's how I interpret most of this. And then, you know, towards the end of the chapter, we get the crazy bit with young luslec popping up, looking like a hoe. I ain't gonna lie, he look like he get all the hoes. I ain't gonna lie, he looking fly in that hoodie. But Arihan stopping him, and you know, I wonder if this is how he got his cut. I don't know, the cut on his face. This might be it, but there's no way to tell, right? We'll see what happens next chapter, right? Also, side note, Quadrado, where is his mouth at? Like, bro out here talking with his ears. It's crazy. But yeah, chapter's a 10 out of 10, man. Gas chapter. We learned a lot about it. Again, you guys are welcome to interpret things how you want. I interpret it as this because it makes sense to me for them, and it shows how they developed later on as people who literally see people as bugs. Like, all the people in this room that climb the tower with them are regular people. Do you think that the current family heads would hang with most of these people in this party now? The way that we see them now, do you think they would hang with these people? I don't think so. It later became known that they said they only care about maintaining the relationships between them. They don't care about nobody else. So that to me makes the most sense to me. You guys are welcome to go against my opinion. I'm always open to it, but that's what I think. So again, 10 out of 10 chapter. Stream will be tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Is it 2:30? 3 o'clock? 2:30, 3 o'clock? In the evening sometime. Come join me. We'll chat it up. We'll talk about you guys' comments and everything. And until then, you guys have a good week. Join the Discord. Peace.